them. The most common one is this concept of answer attempt. So, you say, I need a Python function, or I need an SQL function, or I need, a summary of documents, or any, output that you're looking for. And the model produces this free text response, right? So it might say, great, I'm happy to help you, and all of that, right? And that's not part of an answer attempt, right? Like if it just writes, something like a greeting or something like that, that's not an answer attempt. But then it'll put something in some code block, or it'll say, the final answer is 28 or whatever, right? And that's what we consider an answer attempt. So basically, if the original problem is the final answer is a number, or the final answer is a block of Python code or whatever, we basically look for that in the answer. And if we find it, if we find a match, then we say, okay, this was an answer attempt. Okay. So from there, you might be thinking, well, everything's an answer attempt. So no, there are things that the model might do that aren't answer attempts. So here's some of them. So the model might ask a clarification question. Right? It might be like, well, you're asking me to write a Python function, but I don't know what the inputs are. So maybe tell me the inputs before I proceed producing, an answer. And if it just does that, that's clarification. Or it might ask you a barrage of questions. Like we say, like an interrogation is like if there's 3+ questions. So it might be like, I need to know the inputs. I need to know the outputs. I need to know the edge cases. I need to know, and when it starts structuring it like that, we call it an interrogation. I think it's a bit of a fine difference between clarification and interrogation, but we still kind of like split it up this way, following the prior work. Another thing it might do is hedging. So hedging is like, imagine that you haven't specified something. It'll produce an answer attempt for each of the possible conditions of that thing that you didn't specify. Mm-hmm. So imagine you're like, I want a function to do this, and you didn't specify Python function. Then it might be like, oh, if you want it in Python, this. If you want it in JavaScript, this. If you want it in Java, this. And so it's called hedging because there's multiple kind of if and else statements. And so that tends to be these very long responses, right? And you don't necessarily know which one is the answer attempt. So we call that hedging. Missing is when the model just doesn't answer, which is kind of more of a technical error thing, but it does happen. So we categorized it. And then refusal is also interesting. And the model might, it's a fine line between clarification and refusal. The model might say, but might be more negative. Instead of asking a question, it might be, I cannot answer this because you have not told me X. So in those cases, we tag that as refusal, but I think, it could be slightly rephrased and be like, can you provide X? And then that would be a clarification question. So I think like refusal and clarification are a little bit like the positive framing and the negative framing of the same